All right. Hello, beautiful people. It is me, Tasha K with Goddess Day, and we are on day 4 of the Six Figure Summit. And I cannot believe that we have already come so far, and just the quality of the presentations has been incredible. I literally have had people texting my phone and calling me to tell me how incredible it is. So if you haven't already, make sure that you go back and that you watch it and that you still run it back and get all of the gems, milk it for everything that you can. That's why I wanted to make it free in honor of Financial Literacy Month, because it is so important that we educate people about the importance of their finances. And the reason that I wanted to get called this the Six Figure Summit, especially for my six figure sisters, is because you hear a lot of people talking about making six figures, talk about six figure marketing, talk about all of these six figure terms, but nobody has six figure wealth. Very few people have six figure wealth and beyond. So it's like, baby, what are you talking about? Like, what game are you playing at? Are these just words to you? Because these are not just words to me. This is something that I want more people to aspire to. And I see that many of us are making the money, but we are not building the wealth. It's easy to talk about making a six figure income, but it's hard to put in the work, or it can feel hard to put in the work to have true six figure wealth. So on day 1, we talked about your income and your career. On day 2, we got into believing in your budget. On day 3, we talked about the power of investing. And today, we're going to talk about leveraging credit and how you can adore your credit score. And I am here today with Miracle of Pop My Score. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I love Miracle because she's always so knowledgeable and detailed about her stuff. So, Miracle, I would love if you would just introduce yourself to the people, let them know what you do and who you serve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my name is Miracle Lewis. I'm actually an accountant. Okay, so I was an accountant first, and then I just, through connections of having other professional friends, I got connected to this lawyer. And typically, accountant lawyers were kind of always needed for each other. But because I had a finance background, even prior to being an accountant, I used to analyze stocks. I used to be in investment. So because I had like this really attention to detail and I can just crunch these numbers, I was always helping like this lawyer with credit repair things. And I started to get into it because we started working together, as a team. So we started working together as a team, and just the accountant and the lawyer working together, we was able to, effectively remove negative accounts from our consumer reports a lot faster than a traditional credit repair company.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like when I'm this accountant, but then I'm doing this credit repair. For me, I just feel like I just became people answered prayer. So that type of work in the credit repair that I do is so fulfilling for me because we're actually giving individuals second chances. Because when we're thinking about money and when we're thinking about debt, it's always like this dark cloud that is facing individuals. And so for me to give people that second chance has been so fulfilling.
I love that you look at it as giving people a second chance and being people's answered prayers. And sometimes I feel like, people don't even know to pray for me. They don't even know that they need these services because they're busy out there living their best lives. And then I come around and say, whoa, 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 let's get this together. But everybody seems to know that they need to improve their credit score. So what are the biggest areas that you would say have caused people to reach out to you and need your services? When do people start paying attention to their credit score?
When they have a big purchase. So typically for my clients, I deal with a lot of individuals that want to purchase a home. They went to a lender and they were denied. So because of that, they didn't even know that they had negative information, on their credit report. So a lot of people come to me when they're trying to do like this big purchase and then being denied.
Mm,
In those particular cases, when I think, debt is so hard, and we kind of live it like under a rock. And so in my case, when I talk to my clients, I always reassure them that, bad credit happens to good people. It's never our intention. A divorce could, um, for some people, a divorce can mess up their credit, a child or any type of emergency. So I just want people to understand, even if you have these blemishes on your credit and those was never your intentions, bad credit just happens to good people.
and sometimes people can be, it can feel so shameful
Yeah, it is.
for
It,
that.
it is. And I think that's one of the things about my calling to credit repair is that we just kind of remove that shame for our clients. Right now I have a lot of clients who went through the pandemic and, with them not working, right, they're unable to pay particular bills. So right now I have some pandemic individuals that wants to come and do repair as well. So, these are just different incidents that happens that can really truly mess up individuals' credit, and it's never their true intentions.
All right, so I love starting off with the statistics so that we can see like what is the state of where things are. And hey.com H. I like to see the state of where things are. And so right now, well, as of 2020, the average credit score for a white person was 725, while the average credit score for a black person was 612. So when you hear those numbers, right, we always joke about having a good credit score like a white person. Like that's something that we joke about. But when you hear statistics like that, when there's such a disparity and they call it the credit gap, what do you think about? Like, what does that make you think?
I think from the outside looking in, we have to look at it as access, right? So if we think about like former President Trump, he had six bankruptcies, right? Throughout his life, six bankruptcies. That's a lot of debt for him to carry, right? But obviously, he knew lawyers, he knew different credit repair that would allow him, right, to clean up his credit in this short period of time. And so I think we do not invest enough into resources such as credit repair. A lot of us will not do credit repair. We'll just say, oh, we'll do a DIY. We'll find a letter that's online. And
Mm-hmm.
those letters don't truly work, for the average person. You might get one or two things removed, and then 6 months later, you're still fighting those same um, different negative accounts and stuff. So I just think it's about investing in ourselves. I understand that in a credit repair industry is very scammy, right? People get scammed a lot. So we are not trusting enough to give our resources, the little bit of resources that we have left, right, into an individual that may potentially scam them, as well. So I believe it's two of those things, right? We have to invest in ourselves. So if someone has negative things on their credit, instead of waiting 7 years for it to fall off, that you can start disputing those, at any time. you know
That hit a nerve because I'd be like, I'll just wait for it to fall off.
Yeah, so, it costs more. We have to remember that it costs more not only being broke, right? It costs more when we don't have good credit. We have high APRs on cars and interest rates on credit cards. Individual credit cards is what, $500, $600. They don't even have access to high limit credit cards. So those are just different type of things that keep us, right, from not saying getting ahead, but being able to, right, utilize the resources, right, for having good credit to leverage it for generational wealth.
That's so good, and it's really getting to that. When you said bad credit is costly, like that's basically what you said. And when you have
Mm-hmm.
bad credit, it cuts off your access, and
Mm-hmm.
it increases the cost for you to borrow money, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've never been a person who is big on credit repair. But as I hear you talking, I really see the value of, because sometimes it just seems superficial to me, but when I hear this, it's like, no, like there's a real case to be made for paying attention to your credit score and investing in having a good credit score. Like that is something that is worth pursuing. And it doesn't have to be so that you can run up your credit, because a lot of times that's where my mind reverts to, that people are going to get these credit cards and they're going to misuse them and they're going to dig themselves into a deeper hole. But that doesn't have to be the case, even if it's just so that you can get that apartment that you want, or get
Mm-hmm.
that lower interest rate, or have access to other people's money. Having that is important.
Yeah,
So
it is.
somebody asked, is it true that when making a major purchase, it's not required that you also put down a cash deposit? Is that true?
I think it depends on like the underwriting and the type of loan that you're getting. So, there's all types of loans and offerings. So it's really based off the underwriting of those particular loans and stuff that you're trying to get.
And so, yeah, right. Like that does exist where you could make a major purchase and it's not required that you put down a cash deposit. You could go to the lot and purchase a car and not put down a deposit, but you have to also understand what that's
You
going to
have to have
do.
that good credit.
You got to have, or if you have bad credit, it's going to cost you a lot of money, to the point where that's likely not even feasible. So, a lot of times, like when you're putting down a deposit, that's just to make sure that it makes that the math is making sense for you. Um, so you already told us a little bit of how you got into the credit industry, and you were partnering with a lawyer, and that was like the dream team. So
Mm-hmm.
tell me a little bit more about why having a lawyer on your side made such a difference.
Because, well, at least in my case, what we do is there's no burden of proof for our clients, right? So we're not saying, oh, this account is not mine, or we're saying that the account is yours. We're not even doing that. We're actually using the credit bureau's own standard against them, right? So we're using their standard, their language against them. And so that's how we effectively are able to remove or turn negative accounts into positive for our clients, because we're using their own standards and language against them.
So all that legalese that people hate to pay attention to is like, oh no, I don't want to pay attention to that. You guys actually pay attention to that, and then you flip the script and you say, no, remember when you said
Yeah,
that?
and we just look at the credit report. I have like this because I did investment and I'm an accountant. We are able to look at the credit report, scan different data, see things that's not matching up between the three bureaus, and yeah, we just use the bureaus
Look at you, like, yeah,
own
we got a
system against
secret.
them.
I'm not gonna tell you the whole secret, but just know that we got the sauce when it comes to, using what they say against them to benefit
Hmm.
the client, because they try to use it to benefit them all the time, and they bank on the fact that people are ignorant. They don't know the details and the avenues that they're using. A lot of credit repair companies are leveraging avenues that are not always honest and that don't always work long term. Is that true? I just said that that's what I think, but I don't really know.
Well, for us, we kind of just, for me, I just kind of go based off the goals of my clients. So if my clients um, have collection accounts, we'll hear gurus that say, "Oh, don't pay that account. That's, don't pay it." But if you're trying to buy a big house, right? You're trying to purchase a house, it has to go through underwriting. We want that account to be zero, right? So you would be able to get that loan. So we just use different strategies. I have a new client that started with me maybe 21 days ago. But before he started with me, I knew that he wanted to buy a house. I told him get all his accounts to zero. Anything that was negative on his account, negotiate. It doesn't have to be what the creditors are telling you to pay. You pay them what you can pay them, right? Bring that account to zero and we'll work and we'll do the rest. So it really depends on the individual's overall goal. If an individual will literally wait 7 to 8 years for a collection account to be removed from their account, they're not doing any big purchase, which I don't really see individuals not doing. You want to bring those accounts at least to zero, if you're going to want to do some big purchases.
Got it. So from what you see from the people that you're working with, specifically Black women, are high-powered Black women leveraging their credit as much as they can?
I think the conversation is, could we say taboo, kind of, right? No one reveals, right, their hard stories, or they had a most recent late payment or anything like that. No one truly reveals that, right? So because that conversation is not talked about so much, individuals are unable, right, to leverage and use their credit, as I mentioned before, because a lot of people probably won't do credit repair. They probably will do like a DIY method, or as I mentioned before, kind of just ignore it until a lender of something that they really, 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 really want say no to them. And then that's when they're like, okay, I need to, kind of do something. So I just think that um, I always just find different things in my mind. So like there's a credit card, well, there's a system, right, where you are able to use your credit card to pay things that typically would have to be cash. But you can use your credit card, they'll write the check out to whatever the company is on your behalf, where you typically have to pay cash. So it's just like those type of little things that people don't know that they can use that will allow them to leverage your credit, allow them to have positive, credit history being built, on their profiles. Because I get a lot of people who will max out a credit card, then they finally pay for it, and the first thing they do is close it. They close that positive account. And so it's just not enough information of how we are supposed to properly use credit. So even if our good intentions is I have a credit card, I maxed it out, and then all of a sudden this individual will close it. So it's just strategies that we just need to learn as a group of how we'll be able to leverage that.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that number, and you can correct me. It sounds like you get people who are coming to you, and you know they've had a lot of credit issues, but nobody is talking about these credit issues openly. So
No.
would you say that like even the successful people that you see, even the people who are making money and they appear to be successful, they're also dealing with these credit issues in the background, but nobody.
Yes, they have late payments, they have, just different things, and in some cases they don't do anything, like an investment. You know how they say you get an annual credit report, for free? Get that credit report and look and see what's on there and start removing, things that's going to weigh you down, basically. So just as much as we talk about budgeting, we also need to be looking at our credit report
Mm-hmm.
and making strategies to clean up different things as they come aboard, because you really can.
Mm-hmm. So if you think about, somebody who has a good job, they're making good money, they want to be responsible with their finances, what's the first thing that you look for or will recommend them as it relates to their credit?
Um, it's a couple of things, right? Um, if you have access to credit where you are able to obtain loans, start borrowing money. You don't have to spend it. So say that you got $2,000 from a bank. You don't have to spend the $2,000. You can pay that $2,000 back from their own money that you just borrowed. You just using it, right? Just to leverage your credit, just to have positive credit history. You don't have to actually use, any of the money or anything. So it's just ways that you can utilize it that will be more beneficial, for
Why?
you.
Right? Why? If I have a good job and I'm making good money, why would I want to go to a bank and take out a $2,000 loan or borrow money from them? How does that benefit me?
Well, it benefits your credit profile. It benefits your credit mix, right? It benefits that you're trustworthy with money, right? So if you borrowing 2,000, you was able to pay that back. You'll be able to borrow a higher limit the next time. You're just doing different strategies, right, to keep you with the ability to have access, right,
Got
to
it.
money.
Got it. Hey, babe, Zagazal. You should ask a question about your credit if you have it. Um, so when you say borrow money, what type of borrowing money do you mean? Like, do you mean borrow money as in go get a credit card that has a $2,000 limit? Because when most people think of credit, they're thinking credit card. Is that what you're talking about?
Um, for a start, right, that will be most individuals' first line of credit, right? When you turn 18, that line of credit will always probably will be a credit card. Once you start to be a little bit more responsible, you will be able to have access to loans. And then from there, you just borrow those loans, right? Pay the loans back, and you just creating this history. Also, you're creating this limit, right, of your ability, because if you're borrowing $2,000 one year, you will then have access to a higher limit the next year, so it's just, you just want to create good habits so you can build your credit profile, build your credit limits, because the whole idea is to really have access to those high limit loans, high limit credit cards. That's the really true benefit, right, of having the great credit. Those $100 credit cards, $500 credit cards, they don't do nothing for you, right?
I
But if you
barely
have a
use.
25K credit card or any, you want those high limit credit cards.
So when you keep mentioning this word, this term credit profile, what is that?
Um, your credit profile, maybe, I probably shouldn't said that, maybe because it's really just based off like your credit, the makeup of your credit score. In your case, you'll probably pick up your credit report. That's your credit profile.
So
And
when
so
you have a credit,
you're judged off, your credit score that we all will see if we were to pull up our credit score today is based off the last 2 years of your habits, of you making on-time payments, of the amount of debt that is owed. So your credit score that you see today is based off those past 2 years of your spending habits, of utilizing your debt.
okay, so the credit score that you see right now is based off of the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to get to that, but before I do, I want to ask, so when we talk about credit profile, what are the different types of credit that somebody, now I'm really speaking to you, so you did say that when you first start off, you're 18, you get a credit card, right? What's next? So maybe like when you're 21, then what? And then when you're 25, then what? Like what is that trajectory for these Black women especially, but everybody who's listening? What would you say are like different credit milestones?
I think, like the first one Well, I think it really should start with the parents, right? The parents should really build up their children's credit profile before they even turn 18, right? So then they already have this high, beautiful score. But of course, they are able to obtain some sort of credit card. I don't know if it's going to be a store card, like a Victoria's Secret. I don't know what that particular card would be, but it typically is a credit card. I always say get the asset first. And so the asset would be a house, right? So if, the kids
Paul,
today,
you
huh?
18. Paul, you 18. You're not getting a house.
Well, these kids today, they're just awesome. They're just doing their mind is just totally different. I guess if we keep that conversation going, you will, out here, I just moved to San Diego, California. We got 21-year-olds buying houses out here. So,
So you get a credit card, but most of the time before you get the house, you want to have built some type of credit profile. So let's
mhm.
pretend that we're talking to somebody whose parents didn't do the due diligence of building up the credit score. So now you're 18, you're trying to do the right thing, so you get a credit card, and you've been doing the right thing. So when you get that first credit card, do you have a
Do
specific?
not close it.
Okay,
Do
and do
not
not
do
close
not
it
ever close that credit card.
ever. So when you get your first credit card, do not ever close. I made that mistake because I had a Bank of America card and they made me mad. And my mama taught me don't do business with people who make you upset. And I got off the phone with them. I said, I'll show you. I do not need to do business with you. And I lost all of my points, everything from closing down that credit card. And I didn't realize the mistake that I had made. So absolutely, you get that card at 18, you don't close it. Do you have a recommendation for maybe like what company an 18-year-old might want to go with? Like, should they be getting store cards or what?
I wouldn't do, for an 18-year-old, I wouldn't do like the store cards or anything like that, because those are the little pesky ones that they won't pay, you know, at the end of the day. And then those are the ones that will be in collections and stuff like that. So I wouldn't even focus on any of those store cards. Leave those store
I
cards alone.
agree. I agree. I'm not into getting the store cards. Maybe like if there's like one store that you shop at all the time, then it might be worth it. But really, I'm not into that. So then, is there like a credit card company that you recommend for first time credit getters?
It's either between like a Discover, like a student, a Discover card, or a Capital One card.
Okay, cool.
I would always encourage people, no matter who you bank with, just always make sure that you also bank with a credit union, because that credit union will give you way more opportunities than your commercial bank.
Got it. And then, so now you have the credit card, you've been leveraging that appropriately. You turn 21. What's the next power play?
Well, so with that credit card, you will want to have about, to be honest, about 2 or 3 credit cards.
Okay, so by the time you're 21, you have 2 to 3 credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the next power play? Is it like a installment loan or a line of credit or what? What's next?
Yeah, I would definitely do like a line of credit, but in that case, I would assume that a lot of kids today, their first line of credit is actually their student loans.
Okay, right. Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, we got the student loans in there. So that is considered what type of loan?
That still is an installment loan, but it's for educational purposes.
Okay, great. So you have that student loan. If you don't have a student loan and you need some type of installment loan on your credit profile because you didn't go to school or you did go to school, but you didn't have to take out a loan, what would you recommend?
Um, I would probably do like the self lender, those uh type of loans, the self lender type loans,
What's
where
that?
you pay, basically you're paying like into a savings account and they give it back to you at the end of the loan.
And why would you recommend that? Is that considered like an installment loan so it would show up in a similar way?
Yeah.
And then what happens when you pay that back? Is it going to fall off your credit report and hurt your credit score or something?
Yeah, it will. I mean, eventually that account will be closed, but during that time, you really want the positive history right onto your report. So with that particular loan, once you pay it off, you know that it's closed, but you get that positive
Yeah.
history.
And that says, hey, this person had an installment loan. They were
Paid it
able,
off
they
on
paid it
time.
back. They
Yes.
have good history. So when I'm looking at their credit profile, installment loan is there. So it
Hmm.
fulfills that requirement. Is there an amount of time that they need to have it? And is there a specific company that you would recommend to do that with?
It is that's the name of the company, Self
Oh, okay.
Lender.
Self
Or
lending.
it might change to Self now. It's just probably just be Self, but Self Lender is the actual company.
And then how long should they have that loan?
I think it's like between 12 months or longer. So you kind of just make that decision. You tell them the amount that you would like to invest in, basically, and you just sort of go from there. Another, probably for a teenager, is if they're renting anything, you can also get your rental payments onto your credit report as positive history as well. So
Mhm.
there's a couple of companies that do that. Rental Karma, or I forget the name, but
The
those
one
are,
I use is called Rent Track.
and they allow you to,
They report
yeah,
rental payments to
yeah.
the.
So those are really good. If you think about that, that's what, 6 credit mixes right there, um, for that individual.
Wait, so you said credit mix. So what would make up the credit mix? So we have credit cards on there. We
We
have
got student loans. We got a.
okay, so the credit card, the installment loan, the self lender, those would count as two different.
That would be considered a loan as well,
Okay, great.
but it's not a student loan. So a student loan is one, right? The credit card is a revolving account, so that would be two. Then we have that self lender, which is a loan that's separate than a student loan, which is what we got three, right there. Um, so about time you're like 25, you want to have at least about
So what are the other
accounts.
three? Okay, so the actual credit cards with those count as different accounts. So you have three credit cards, and then the two installment loans, and then what would make a good sixth one?
Well, then after that will sort of pretty much be, like a auto loan,
Yeah, a
a,
car loan.
a mortgage. But I don't know if they'll be ready for those type of big purchases. But we're talking about creating a profile
Hmm.
that has great positive history and that you're able to manage multiple accounts.
Hmm. I love it. So like even before you really need any of these things, right? Like you might be 21 or 23, or maybe you didn't think about these things when you were younger, but you're learning about it now. And so, as you are learning about it, I'm 34 and I'm learning about my credit profile because credit is not one of the financial areas that I've prioritized in my life. And so now, even at this age, you can go back and start thinking, all right, what do I want my credit profile to look like? And then start building it out from there. So, what would you say for people who are wherever they are in life and they want to start building up their credit profile and their credit report so that they can be comfortable making big purchases like a car or a home or whatever? What would you say would be the main thing to focus on?
The main thing to focus on is your payment history, because that's like 35% of your score. Okay. And amount owed is 30% of your score. So you already see that's what, 65% of your score is based off those two things. So as long as you have those two things in alignment, you have great uh, positive history. Late payments happens, right? People have 30, 60, 90 days late on credit cards. That definitely happens, but go back. If you 30 days, go back to your creditor and get that removed. You know, if you have longer, work on getting that negative information removed, because that is what's going to be holding you down. So, every year, look at your credit report, look at the information that's being reported,
And
and clean it
so,
up.
I mean, I think sometimes people get resigned to like, if this is my credit score, then this is just my credit score. I have to live with it like this. But what you're saying is like, no, look at how can you get those negative marks removed from your report so that it can translate into your credit score. You don't have to settle for what's there. And that's why sometimes you need to have an expert
Mm-hmm.
on your side. So one of the things I wanted to ask, there's a reason that I haven't paid a lot of attention to credit, and it's because I don't believe in going into debt. Um, Regina said, I heard is sorry, I wanted to make sure I get her question. She said, I heard it's better to get your credit report from each of the three credit bureaus separately. Any thoughts on that versus like going to a annualcreditreport.com or something?
No. The reason why, if you're just doing it just for an annual basis, you're not doing anything to purchase a loan, or purchase a house to get a loan. I wouldn't too much worry about it, because you are scored differently across the board for different things. You have a auto credit score, you got a mortgage credit score, you have different credit scores. So it's really not a big deal. We just want to see the information that is on those reports. And most of the time across the board, all the information will still be available. Even if you went to, what is it, Credit Karma, and it's free. You get your Equifax and TransUnion for free. It's the same information.
Yeah. So, I think sometimes what people don't realize is that even though we have three credit bureaus who are giving you this information, there's even more credit scores. So basically, what Miracle is saying is that even if you do go to those three credit bureaus, you're still not going to be getting very specific information like you think you are. And so, if you're just doing your annual credit report, you can go to annualcreditreport.com and get your credit score, your credit report from each of the three credit bureaus for free. But if it comes to a place where you're thinking about getting a home loan or a car loan or something, and you want to get more specific details, then you're going to have to ask that lender, what credit score do you use, right? And they're going to have to tell you like the specific one that they use, and then you can look up the what goes into that specific one if that's what you
And
choose.
actually, you can really find it today if you go to my FICO. You'll have to pay for this particular report, but they will give you all your scores. You'll have so many scores with my FICO, but they'll give you your mortgage score, they'll give you your auto score, they'll give you everything that's being determined on your behalf. My FICO will.
Okay, so you can go to My FICO to get your specific FICO scores, and you can go to annualcreditreport.com just to get that annual credit report from each of the three bureaus so that you can have an idea of
But I
where.
just want people, because people then become fascinated by this credit score. And I want to conscious you guys not to do that, because your score will go up and down all month long, if you continuously sit there and try to watch and monitor it. Just make sure that you have like on-time payments. Anything negative, you want them removed or updated to positive information. Those are just really the key things that you want to do. Bring your debt down. Make sure that you are, if you have credit cards, you paying it off, right, every month. So it's reported with very low utilization, because that utilization can decrease your score as well. So it's just about strategy basically when it's just coming to your credit. So don't really focus so much on the score itself. Just work and pay attention to your credit mix, your history, the amount owed, and that you're just being able to manage it properly.
Love it. And so we're talking about credit, and like I said, I haven't always been a fan of credit, and one of the reasons is because most people don't know how to leverage it properly, and then they dig themselves into a hole that's very difficult for them to get out of. And then by the time they come to me, they want to, have this successful financial life, but all of their discretionary income is going to pay off those past credit mistakes. So with us being in this positive, momentous, like forward moving conversation about how to be proactive and use credit appropriately, how are you advising people to use credit successfully instead of to their detriment?
Um, One of the ways that I tell people is pay your bills with your credit, right? You're not using your credit card to go buy clothes or anything like that. You're just really using it to pay your bills because you know that you have to use that cash anyway, right? You're going to use the cash anyway. So just make it towards that credit card, right? You pay it with your credit card, use that cash to pay the credit card bill off every month, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Also, to ensure that you have some type of, I won't say passive income, but just make sure that you have another income coming in, especially if you like to spend. So then you'll be able to spend that extra cash on the things that you want, right? So you're going to use your credit card for the things that you need, right? And the things that you want, if you're doing Uber or, any type of bartending, whatever way that you just want to make extra cash, you want to utilize that for your wants.
And then, so what are some of the mistakes that you see people make with their credit cards and or with their credit overall?
Um, a lot of times, when I'm looking at individual credit cards, is those store cards, right? Because they're never a priority, right? When you have to use a little bit of money that you have, is never a priority to pay back. So I would really stay away from those like store credit cards. You want a credit card where you can be able to use in multiple places, right? So that will probably be one. Don't max out your cards unless you know that you have the ability to pay them off um, every month. And another one would be is to make sure that you have a savings for at least 120 days. And the reason why is, say something was like for me, what I do is I always pay my bills ahead. So I'm always like 2, 3, 4 months ahead in a lot of my bills. So I just kind of pay them in advance because you never know what emergency you might have, right? So you just kind of always want to make sure that you have that savings as well, because that's where a lot of accounts will start going to collections when it's like 120 days and there was no payment ever being made. Um, if anything, always pay at least the minimum, right, of your credit card. At least pay the minimum by anything. If you can't pay nothing, at least pay the minimum. That's where I'm getting at. So those are just some things, but definitely stay away from those store cards. They're never a priority when it's time to pay that $500 bill back.
And one of the things that I see, some people don't know that like there are certain credit aspects that will impact your credit today or this month, but can be handled and then improve your credit next month. For example, credit utilization, right? So if a lot of people don't know that if your credit limit is $1,000, you can't go and use $1,000 or it's going to hurt your score. You can only use 30% of that, or if you want that boss score, 10% or less. So that means you can only use $300 or less. And if you use more than that, it's going to hurt your score. But credit utilization will only hurt your score for like that
If
cycle.
it's like over like 10%, if it's over a certain amount, it will start to affect your score.
But as soon as you pay it down, your score will go back to normal. But if
Mm-hmm.
you miss a payment after that 30 days and it's reported, guess what? Once you pay it off, that don't just come off your score right away. That late payment is going to impact your score for how long? 2 years?
Pretty much 2 years. The first 2 years, it will be heavy, right, on your score, and then it starts to diminish over time.
So my girl Kara, I told you people have been texting me and calling me about these six figure summits. She wanted me to ask you about authorized users. So let me get that. So how does it affect? So when you ask somebody to adding folks or getting on other folks' accounts. So when you add somebody to your account and you allow them to be an authorized user on your account, how does that impact you and how does it impact them?
Well, for the person that is utilizing the person's credit card, you'll receive all their good positive history
And
onto your report.
negative? What if they have negative? Would you receive
You
that?
wouldn't want to use that person
You would get
because
all
you will get that negative information too.
okay.
So you want to make sure that the card that you're using for that particular person, you want to make sure that they constantly have on-time payments,
What if
because
that
you
person, if that person doesn't have a great score and you allow them to be an authorized user, does that now negatively impact your score, the person who extended the credit to them?
if they have a negative payment since you've been a user, yeah, it will drop you down. So you want to be very mindful um, about the individuals and stuff that you will select for the authorized user. A lot of people utilize that just to boost their score just a little bit, but you want to do that if you're going to use it as a strategy. You use that for if you're trying to buy a house, or doing some type of big purchase, right? Those type of things, and it should not be open long term. You
So,
shouldn't trust it.
but any negative history that they had prior to you guys linking up, their negative history would not hurt the person who has extended the credit to them, but it would the other way. Does that make sense, or you want me to say that again?
So
Let
basically,
me
for
say
that credit card, whatever history is on there, if you're going to use them as the authorized user, you're going to take on that history. If you don't want your score to drop or anything like that, make sure that they have at least 2 years of good positive history. You want that card to be paid off.
but got it. So any negative history that that authorized user has is now going to be extended to you.
Yes.
However, because they extended their credit to you, if you had negative credit history prior to getting onto their credit card, that's not going to affect them.
Well, the new
Like
person?
if I wanted to extend credit to my sister and she has bad credit, but her bad credit will that affect me as long as it's
No,
okay.
no,
Got it.
no,
Okay, great. And
no.
so now, got it. And so now, when we sever, so you said like you only want to do that short term. So now, when I take that person off as an authorized
You
user,
just
so I
keep the
let
history.
they keep
You keep the
all.
history, you keep the limits, you keep all the positive information.
Okay, so it's not going to hurt them when you take them off of your credit card.
No.
So, how would you recommend that people begin to leverage authorized users to help improve credit scores? How would you recommend that people leverage that?
Just use it for, like I said, for big purchases. You want to utilize that for big purchases, or you want to utilize that if you're very new into credit, right? Building your credit profile. Those will probably be the only time that you will really need to do that.
So if you're new, then somebody like your parents
Hmm.
might put you on as a authorized user. And then if you're looking for you might be buying a house and you're making a big move like that, who would you be looking for to be an authorized user? Is it still your parents? What are your clients? Who are your clients typically going to get this positive credit history?
Well, we rebuilt their positive history for them. So, hello?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Are you here?
Yep, I can hear you.
Could you see me?
Yes.
Oh, I can't see you guys. But what was I saying here?
You said you guys rebuilt the positive history for them. So,
Yes. So we rebuilt the positive history for them. There are companies that I believe is online where they charge you for, particular, was it 30, 60, 90 days, um, that also do that.
Miracle, you just went out.
Okay. Could you see me now?
Yes.
Okay. For some reason, after I can't see you guys, but so there are companies as well, but I will be leery of those companies.
Well,
Really just
about asking your mama or your daddy or your cousin or your sister.
yes, I would definitely do family before anyone.
Okay, so I was just seeing like, is that something that people do? Like, once you about to get that big house, you might call up a friend and say, "Hey, I need to leverage some of your credit history. It's not going to hurt you, and you can see for the last 2 years I've been doing good on my credit, but it's just some things on there that I want to make sure I have a lot of positive history."
Yeah, because they just probably wanted just to boost their score just a little bit. When you think about it, that's all it's going to do is just boost your score a little bit. In that case, if you want lower interest, and some people are what shy of 2 3 points or even more, those it helps with those type of
And
things.
and what's the minimum amount of time that you can have somebody on you as an authorized user to help them boost their score by a couple points?
The minimum time,
Yeah.
once you're like an authorized user, once that account, the statement has been closed and reported, that's pretty much where you will see that big boost. And then from there, your credit score will just be adjusted however long you're still on that person's account.
Okay, great. And then Kara asked one more question. What's the average boost for when you have somebody as an authorized user? What is the average boost? Is there any way to know?
No, there isn't
It
any way to
varies.
know. I mean, there's people who have credit profiles and we go in there, we clean up personal information and we can see a 60-point boost for them. So we don't know, it's just you know, based off the activity of people's accounts. But it could be 10 points, it can be 60 points. It's just really is dependent on the credit profile for that individual.
Oh, okay. Hey, mom. My mom is here. What YouTube account are you using? She's on a YouTube account that says "I'm so cool." That must be one of my nephews. So, this has been so much great information. I found myself like really asking all these questions because I'm like, oh, I didn't know that, or oh, I didn't think about that, or oh, I see a strategy there. I'm like, oh, okay, let me try to figure this out. So, with that being said, are there any things that you want to make sure that before we get off this call, there's a misconception that you want to clear up about credit, or there's something you think the people need to know that they don't know about credit? Um, what do you want to? Where do you want to leave people?
About credit. It's needed, right? America is built off business, right? And off debt. Well, not just America, but this whole world is just based off debt. And so we're gonna all die with debt, right? Student loans, we're gonna owe somebody at the end of the day. Just make sure that of your consciousness, right? That you're just doing right by the resources that you have and you're leveraging them for the common good of yourself, or as we mentioned before, generational wealth, and not so much of the greed aspect or being able to show off different luxury items. Just make sure that you're just using it for the common good of yourself, that you will be able to leverage the access for it. But don't be afraid of the money. Don't be afraid of the debt. Just make sure that you just have basically the income or an additional income just to pay the loans or credit cards back when utilized.
Yes, you got to be able to pay it back. So, Miracle, thank you so much for
You're
coming,
welcome.
sharing all of this information. I definitely want to make sure that we have future conversations so that we can continue to get the message out there about healthy ways to leverage debt for your finances and your financial future. I know that you have some credit offers, so we'll be sending those out in our email. One at the end of the summit, we're going to be sending out everybody's offers, and so I want you, if you know that you have a big purchase coming up and it's going to benefit you to like get the interest rate down, or have your credit profile cleaned up, definitely make sure that you follow up with Miracle. And Miracle, do you have a specific place where like a website where they can find you, or
Mm-hmm.
social
Yeah,
media?
you guys can find me on popmyscore.com. I do free credit consultations if anyone is just kind of interested into just seeing what's, a lot of people don't know what's on their credit profile. So let's just see. It might be some old data. It might be
You went out again, if you can hear me.
Oh, I'm here. I'm so sorry, guys. Um, yeah, so you can go to popmyscore.com.
And are there any credit tools that you just absolutely love?
The self lender is great for individuals just to start to build their credit profile. Capital One is really good for those who just need second chances, right? Because they are the ones that, at least Capital One, will give you a second chance. I've seen some individuals who had things that was in collections with Capital One. They go back a few years later and Capital One will extend credit to them. So those are, a good one for those who are looking for second chances and their credit, Capital One. And if anyone is renting, definitely get some of those payments right on your report. These are just good things just to kind of just have and just have a good mix for your credit profile.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody who joined us today. I am so grateful for you guys being a part of this conversation. I hope that you are getting something out of it. We want to make sure that, we're not just making money, but that we're being good stewards of the money that we have, and that we're leveraging it for long-term wealth and legacy. So that is what the six-figure movement is all about. So I hope that you are focused in, that you're tapped in, that you're tuned in, because wealth is in your future. And we'll be back tomorrow where we're going to start talking about execution. And I'm going to have some of the best executionists with me tomorrow so that you can learn how to take action on all of the things that you've learned along the way, along these 4 days. So tomorrow will be our very last day. We're going to hit it on the execution. And my goal and my intention is that, as we wrap up Financial Literacy Month, we do more than just get financially literate. We start taking better financial actions that lead to better financial futures. Thank you again, Miracle. It was such a pleasure to have you with us today, and everybody will be back tomorrow.